Hi, it's Sam, aka LymphomaLass here, and today I'm going to be showing you how I make my Aromatherapy air dry clay botanical imprints. So I'm just going to clear this away for a minute and come back to you at the start. For this project I'm using some DAS modelling clay, and I've used a little bit of this block before, so I've wrapped it up in cling film to keep it fresh. So I'm just going to unwrap it and cut a bit of the clay off for this project. And then I'm immediately wrapping it back up nice and tight, because I want the clay to last for other projects. So just take out as much as you need for each project you're working on. So it's all nicely wrapped back up. Then I'm going to take my clay and I'm just rolling it out with a glass. I don't want to use my baking wooden rolling pin because this is obviously not food grade. And I'm rolling it on a piece of tin foil, not just for the sound effect, but again to keep the grains of air dry clay off my kitchen work surface. I'm not worried about the clay being very even in terms of how it's rolled, but if you were, you could put two rulers or other items like that either side and roll it in between them. Then I'm going to cut out my pieces. Again, I don't use these moulds for anything that's food related. I've also got a Christmassy snowflake, so you could make these not just to hang in your car, maybe on your rear view mirror, if that's permissible in your country. Some countries it's not permissible in, or to put in your wardrobe, or to just have in the side of the sitting room or another room to just scent it, but you could also use them for Christmas decorations, using something like a snowflake or a bell or whatever, and that looks quite effective, as you can see from this one I've made earlier. Now that would be quite nice on a Christmas tree. Okay. So just going to lift those off for a minute, put them to the side, and roll another another piece. Or, if you don't have pretty cutters, like I have, you can just roll a blob of it, or a circle of it, to make your imprints on. And then, so you can hang them. At this stage you need to put a hole in. I'm using a plastic straw that's left over. I'm keeping in my kit just for this purpose. And then I might have to prod it out with the plastic straw. But I've got a hole, and I just smooth the edges a bit, if I can, maybe with a bit of water. Just so they're a bit smoother. And then I've got my other pieces I need to similarly put holes in. And now comes the fun part. Just going to smooth them a bit. You can either smooth them before they set, or you can sand them once they've set. So I've just picked some bits of botanical from the garden. This is London Pride, this is a succulent, and this is just a sage leaf. The succulent's quite good because it's quite structured. So when I imprint it, it leaves quite a strong pattern. Which is perfect. Just gently press it in, and there you have your pattern. And I'm going to also use a little bit of London Pride to provide a more gentle, detailed pattern. Using the flats of my fingers to press the flat in. That bit of seed will come off in a minute, well, in a few hours when it's dry. And I'm just pressing in my sage leaf to make a leaf out of each. And I'm just going to move them and smooth the edges with a finger. And if I want, just a tiny bit of water. So because they're going to set, I'm going to continue doing that and come back to you in a minute. So they may take a couple of days or longer to dry, depending upon atmospheric conditions. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you how I finish the Aromatherapy Botanical Imprints off. So I'm going to put some water on the watercolours just to activate them. While they're activating, I'm going to do this a little bit the opposite way round the way I usually do. I'm going to show you stringing the dry eclair piece before I show you painting it, just because I know once it's wet it's going to be more difficult for me to do that. So I've got a piece of ribbon about so long, and I've put in half, and I'm going to put it through the hole at the front of the air dry piece, like so, and then I'm going to push the two ends up, or I should say down, through the hole like that, and tighten it. I'm then going to put a knot in it to keep that tight and secure. And then I'm going to tie a little bow to hang down from it. So I've got two. Everybody's got different ways of tying ribbons. I find to tie a bow it's better to do it from the top looking down. So I've got two bow ends I've made, and I just put one over and then through the loop at the back on the other. And then it's a gradual process of making the bows smaller and then pulling them tight till you've got the shape you want. And then I'm going to do, I think it's called a reef knot. one side of a knot, another side of the knot, and then I'm going to pull the two pieces together at the top. Now you don't do this if you want to tie it on something, but if I want to make a hanger, I just then take it over my finger, through the loop, tighten it like that. Then I'm going to chop off the ends into a nice onto a nice angle, so it's more attractive an angle. And then I'm going to turn this over, and just to keep it all steady and secure, I'm just going to add a couple of drops. I could either use PVA glue, but I've got some nail varnish handy, so I'm just going to anoint it with a bit of nail varnish. To stop the knot pulling. Then I'm going to prop it up on my scissors so I don't get nail varnish on my counter, and I'm going to paint the decoration with some watercolour paints. Now these won't be resistant to water, so if you want it for outdoors, this probably is an indoors product, an indoors item, project I should say. But I like to do it with watercolours because the colours are quite sensitive and delicate and kind of suit what I'm trying to do. I'm just going to put a bit more water on that to make them spread out like little blossoms. Tiny bit more water. That's me painting my London Pride indents. Now when I look at London Pride, one thing that strikes me is that the stems are a kind of reddy brown. So that's what I'm going to make them on here. Just a very light brush of reddy brown. Doesn't have to be perfect, just to give an indicator. I'm doing this upside down as well, as you might have noticed. Just try and follow them through so that they're logical, so that they go to a logical point. So each flower has a stem, and the stems go all the way down. The succulent, I'm going to paint that a purple. Again, adding a bit more water to make it blossom. And just add a little bit more paint to the little pride bits at the base of each flower. And then I'm going to use a green for flowers and stem together with the succulent. If you put on too much, you just draw it out with a bit more water. Very light touch. then I'm using a bluey green for the sage leaf. I'm putting more paint on the bottom edge, bottom half, and on the top. And then I'm just adding a little water to make it wash out a bit. I want it to have a kind of folk look. And then all I'm going to do to finish this piece is just drop some essential oil on it. Just be careful with essential oils. Some are not suitable to go on human skin. Have a little read up. Lavender is a very safe one, but I'm just fancy using a bit of geranium on the back of this one. There we go. And that's my little hanging decoration finished. Thank you very much. Bye for now.